Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
I'm Reed Guy.
And welcome to Ask Hugo. Today we're going to be reading your questions from our Discord, where there is a link in the description. And yeah, I'm going to answer them, so...
Here comes an answer. Actually, this is a question. L Sky Wizard asks Hugo, Dear Hugs and Jisses, how much stock do you think is appropriate to put in your atheism? Is it important enough for people to put energy into talking about and trying to convert people? Or is it better to have an H-Bomber guy approach of, yeah, I am one, but who really gives a shit?
As far as media is concerned, like on places like YouTube, I'm glad both exist. I'm glad we both have people like us who are just... We do other things as well, but a lot of our focus is on things like that, and the secular lifestyle, secular political viewpoint, whatever it might be. But I'm really glad also that there are people out there like H-Bomber Guy who are just have content based on either media review or whatever, and maybe it comes up every once in a while, but it's not really a main thing of their videos, because what H-Bomber Guy does, and people like that, it essentially normalizes it for people, so hopefully their idea of it isn't some big fat neckbeard like us. But also then, if someone is curious about that viewpoint, there are people that they can then research and look into it like us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think they're both essential to the normalization and of our viewpoints, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and whereas we have obviously more of a focus on it, I think it's important to have justifications for why you no longer believe as well, which is not a thing that like an H-Bomber Guy really offers.
Sure.
Right? So while it is matter of fact just part of you, also people like to understand why they believe or disbelieve different things, and as a way of validation of your belief system or whatever. And I think that has a lot of space in media in general. I think it's interesting that it's becoming more normal that you see non-religious people.
As far as non-media, as far as just you as an individual living your life, I think the H-Bomber Guy approach is the way to do it.
Oh yeah. Like when we go out in public, it's not like church. No. Like it's most atheists aren't like I'm always on atheism. Shit.
If you like the conversation and it happens to come up and you can have a rational, like, reasonable conversation like adults with someone about it, great, do that. Or, for instance, recently we went to Pride and we were arguing with some street preachers just because we didn't want them annoying other people. Like, that can be a valuable use of your time or whatever.
But even though the evidence seems to be certain that there's nobody inside, you don't know for sure.
What's this supposed to illustrate?
I'm illustrating to you that just because you follow evidence doesn't therefore make something to be true.
It absolutely would. It would.
My only advice would be, imagine you are on the opposite end of this and it is a religious person. Would it be reasonable for them to bring up their religion in this circumstance?
Right.
If you're already having a conversation about these things, absolutely, bring up your point of view and explain yourself and try and get across why you believe what you believe or lack belief where you lack it. But, don't be an asshole. Good general rule for life.
I can't imagine. I can't remember a single time outside of like with coworkers in the real world where this conversation comes up.
Not often.
Right. It's only like in the privacy of your home with friends or family or something. This tends to happen.
Yeah.
Or on Facebook.
Yeah. If I wrote my own book, Hugo B. Peterson's One Rule for Life, it would be don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sell as many copies though.
You wouldn't. It'd be pretty short. Daddy Sume asks Hugo, Okay guys, I got a question for you. I think it's interesting. What are your thoughts on large age gaps in relationships? For example, 25-year-old woman, 50-year-old man, or 30-year-old man and 45-year-old woman, or take the extreme, an 18-year-old man and a 55-year-old woman. I'm saying this in a vacuum, no grooming or anything like that. They just met and got into a relationship. In my opinion, age is really just a number as long as everyone is old enough to consent. Yeah, it's kind of weirds me out, but who am I to gatekeep? As long as everyone is consenting, who really cares?
Yeah,
that's pretty much where I'm at.
That's where I'm at with it. As long as there's consenting adults involved, do whatever you want. As long as you're not hurting anyone. Just personally, though, I find the general rule of half your age plus 7 to generally make sense. You know what I mean? That tends to work. Like, pick any age.
Sure, but that's 37 and 60.
Sure, absolutely. But I'm just saying, regardless, I think it's fine. I'm just saying, personally, that's my rule, because I feel like, in general, and of course there are outlier cases, but you're going to have more in common with someone close to your age. You're going to have more similar interests, similar life experiences. It makes sense, and that's the kind of person I'd be interested in. I could understand someone else, though, being like, I want someone with completely different life experiences so we complement each other or whatever.
I mean, there's lots of ways that can manifest. I'd say it's probably the case for biological reasons that you tend to be attracted to someone near your age anyway.
Sure.
Which is why as you age, someone that, like, I don't know, if you think back, like, I'm in my 30s now. If I think back to when I was 15, like, thankfully, I think this was reflective of my very healthy sexual outlook. When I think of 15-year-old girls that I went to school with that I used to, like, think were really, really good looking and really attractive, I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
And not even just because they're 15 though. Like, even go up to 18. Like a lot of people I went to school with that are of legal age for me to date, hypothetically, time travel, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, even those people are like just the way they act and stuff. It's very rare when you can like actually, I don't know how that manifests. Like, 45-year-old people thinking other 45-year-old divorcees are good looking. Like, that's a thing, and I think it's for biological reasons. I think we tend to look for sameness in ways. So, but
it's also a maturity thing, like you were alluding to there, because someone who's 45 isn't going to look at someone who's 20 and assuming they want a relationship based on personality and, like,
well, not even relationship, just
and not look.
Even down to an attraction level, like that starts to fade away. It seems. This is anecdotal, I guess, from firsthand experience. It seems to fade toward like a mean average of my age. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like plus 7, 8, 9, minus 7, 8, 9, and then it slowly starts to coordinate. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's wrong again as long as there's no grooming. That's usually the case. That it gets gross to everybody, I think.
And then of course there are like Donald Trump and his wife situations where he's old as fuck. That's an outlier situation where it's
a money thing.
It's a money thing. But I also don't necessarily have a problem with that.
Yeah,
Consenting adults can have relationships for whatever reason they want, including financial transactional relationships.
Yeah, as long as they're...
I wouldn't personally find that fulfilling, but it's not my place to tell other people what to do either.
Yeah. So there you go. Trump fans, we said something sort of nice.
I don't think that's nice. That's neutral at best, but whatever.
Sort of nice. Neutral at best is sort of nice for us. GM. This is a okay. Dear Hugo and Steak, not bad. Good start. Terrible finish. Is the MCU the Homeric epic of our time, or just another corporately exploited nostalgia pop fad? Do you see us analyzing them for moral messaging the way we do with the early animated Disney films decades from now? On that note, do you think the franchise will have a progressive impact on the next generation generally?
I think Homeric epic is
silly.
An overstatement by a lot. But it's certainly a pop culture phenomenon in the same way that Harry Potter had been in the previous 15 years and back in the 70s and 80s Star Wars was. It's a pop cultural artifact that we will look back on and will certainly be analyzed for a long time. The thing about the MCU movies, and I'm one of the biggest MCU fans you could possibly have, but I also recognize it's a lot of studio, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of, factory-made movies, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they tend to have a formulaic, kind of like Dan Brown books.
Sure, but you have the gems in there, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which are written and directed by James Gunn, and his creativity, I think, really shines through in those movies.
Winter Soldier.
Sure. So you do have those that stand out, but I think, again, it'll mostly be viewed like a Star Wars or something like that, where it had this huge pop cultural influence, and it'll influence movies for probably decades to come, and whatever fad happens to come next. I'm assuming we're kind of near the end of this superhero boom. At some point in the next 5 years, I'd imagine it'll die down. I think they'll still make Marvel movies, but just not like 2 a year like they can.
I don't think we'll have another Endgame type culmination for some, unless DC gets their shit together and you make a really satisfying, like, like with the new Joker, the new Batman, maybe you could make that work, but because you're coming off the heels of the MCU,
even if
burnout's real.
Even if they made it and it was amazing, even if it was quality-wise better than the MCU, at a certain point people are going to be like, all right, we've seen the people in the costumes having, like, character-driven stories. That's fine, but we want something else.
But people that grew up with the MCU have kids now. And those kids are going to want to see the movies, and the parents want, you know, I mean, there's a lot of like passing down.
Sure, I'm sure.
And that's where you get a lot of your money from this kind of stuff.
It will continue to exist as a franchise in the same way Harry Potter has continued to exist as a franchise, and Star Wars has continued to exist. But, you know, we're in sort of its heyday right now, and eventually that'll be over. So it has pop cultural significance, whereas I would say something like a Homeric epic
Let's talk about Homeric epic, okay?
Has, like, high art cultural significance, as in, like, 1,000 years from now, people will remember it as a touchstone point for understanding a culture and a people. MCU is not that.
Homer is more akin to, like, the Epic of Gilgamesh, like parts of the Bible, like specifically the Exodus story. Like, this has religious, cultural, historical significance to the people contemporary to the time, where Marvel, while a lot of them are really great and fun, they're popcorn movies. They're not as culturally significant, and I know this is probably weird to think about, I mean, because, you know, they're the most famous thing in the world, and they literally drive people. Like, I absent-mindedly just go to Marvel movies when they come out at this point, because I just want to know what happens next. But they're in no way as significant as the Iliad or the Odyssey. Like you're talking about people trying, like, telling a story about the history of their world before there was history. It's so different. It's not even close to the amount of impact that those epics had. Like, it's weird. And also, all the Marvel movies borrow from those epics.
In 100 years, if anyone remembers any franchise from this era, I would say it'll probably be Star Wars, because it had such a huge cultural impact in the 70s and 80s. I think that'll be the movie that's remembered from this, like, roughly 50-year time span, if any. And then as time moves forward, that'll even be forgotten probably as well. You know? I don't know.
I mean, forgotten in the sense that, like,
interestingly,
it doesn't have as much cultural impact when you bring it up. But
I find it interesting, thinking forward about this, that we essentially are at the beginning of a kind of recorded history, in a sense. The visual medium has only existed in video for, like, you know...
video?
Not
like home video?
Not home video, but like cameras in general.
Okay, since Chaplin.
Like 100 years ago. And even more recently, the advent of easily recordable and distributed home video, stuff like this.
30, 40 years.
Not even that. I mean, I'm talking like
30
YouTube.
Years.
So
YouTube. You're not talking about like VHS
No, okay. I'm talking about like the ability for someone to go out there and for almost no cost create something like this, put it out on the internet and have it
When
exist.
did YouTube start? 15 years ago?
2005 or so.
Okay,
So I don't know what the future of how we look back on media is going to be, because not only are we going to have media from the time period it is, you'll be able to look back at media from this time period and media criticizing that media. Stuff like this. Stuff like...
Yeah, we didn't really have that.
So, this is sort of the beginning of a kind of recorded history we've never had before. An insight into the feelings and thoughts of people at the time in a way we've never had access to before. It's almost akin to, like, when the fucking Gutenberg printing press came, you know what I mean?
It is. I mean, you're not wrong.
It's gonna change how we view history, and I find that very interesting.
Right, because now history is so much more opinionated because so many people have platforms.
Right, and there's also, I think, a disconnect, because when you're reading an ancient document or whatever, I mean, you know they're a person like you, but there's a disconnect. Whereas something like this, well, it's not going to be as advanced as whatever we might have hundreds of years from now. True. If someone were to watch this, somehow it got saved or some shit, somehow. There's an immediate, more personable connection between you and that person who's probably been dead for decades, if not longer. So, I don't know. interesting things are going to be happening as far as the future's concerned. So, while we might make fun of the idea of the MCU as a Homeric epic, I think the very idea of what an epic is and how people view media and history is going to shift. So,
I mean, do we even have a modern epic?
I mean, you can't. I don't think it's
in any way, because it's so different.
Yeah.
Because we just, like, the way we can interact with these things is so much different than...
I think you need to have hindsight as well to kind of judge that sort of thing, so... I don't know.
Mr. Crowley, dear Bluto and Jerkoff, hey, what are your opinions on transhumanism? Do you think it's the best way forward for humanity? And if not, what is? The best way forward.
I don't know. The best is sort of subjective, so I'm just going to say, is it going to happen, and is it going to be are we going to be better off or worse off because
Well, what specific aspects of transhumanism are you considering?
Well, for those of you who don't know, transhumanism is the idea of making people more than human, whether that be by, like, some sort of cybernetic augmentation in the future, for instance. You know, they develop advanced prosthesis or whatever for people's arms. But not just because you lost an arm you get one, but because it's actually better than a normal arm, so you start switching out parts, stuff like that. There's also, like, genetic modification parts to this.
Cyberpunk.
Sure. Here's the thing. I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I like the idea of Star Trek's very humanist future philosophy of, we're not going to be transhumanist, we're fine the way we are, and we're going to do our best.
Well, Geordi can see every spectrum of light.
I know. But I would also say, but he didn't get that recreationally. He was born blind, you know what I mean?
By the way, that would just overload you with fucking information. That's too much light.
In Star Trek, it's illegal in the Federation to get, like, augmentations just because. You're not allowed to do that because of the eugenics wars, which was in the, like, 1990s or something in the Star Trek universe. Anyway, so, I find that interesting and appealing, but I also find it to be very unrealistic. The human race has never stayed in the same place, and what we find odd and maybe a little controversial today becomes business as usual tomorrow.
Robot fucking.
So, I think transhumanism is going to happen simply because someone's going to do it, and at a certain point it'll become a disadvantage not to. I'm looking at you, China.
Well, like, I mean, we're already to the point where we can, like, they call them designer babies, but really it's, you know, honing genetic information to reduce disease rates. I think that's the next step in fighting. Like, that's going to go past antibiotics, right? Like you're going to have a population of people that are just immune to different bugs, and that's how they get eradicated. That's the next step in medicine. It's a proactive approach rather than reactive. And yeah, so I mean, it's going to start there. You're going to have, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we figured out how to, like, keep life going for well past its natural course. The mind download thing, we're so complex. I don't know that. I mean, I feel like if technology continues at this slope and we don't fucking destroy ourselves, I think it's probably feasible in the theoretical sense. I just don't. I don't understand how this works on a level enough.
Sure, but someone from 1736 wouldn't understand how a computer works either. But that doesn't mean doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, it's the brain is a very big mystery. So I think that's the real step. That's the real step when you can, like, put yourself in a what's the show on Netflix I'm thinking of?
Black Mirror?
Carbon something.
Oh, Altered Carbon.
Altered Carbon, where basically you just get uploaded to different bodies.
Yeah.
I think that's peak transhumanism.
I think there's a fundamental flaw in that idea, though. I think that's fundamentally flawed because it implies almost a duality to the human consciousness, that there is the physical and then there is, like, some sort of data that can be transmitted, whereas really we are the meat that is in our skulls, you know what I mean? You can't download the contents of your character.
That's what I was saying, and you gave me the 1736 bullshit.
Okay, I'm just saying it would be a copy, not a... It wouldn't be you, it would be a copy. It's the Star Trek transporter argument.
Maybe it would be a copy. I have no idea. That could be the case.
I've looked more into it, by the way. That's not how Star Trek transporters work.
No?
No. Originally,
but if it did work that way, then...
They've clarified...
The difference was you were arguing as if that was the way, and you were fine with it, which is stupid! Anyway.
I'm a little fatalistic anyway, so.
It doesn't matter. Hamiltonian. Dearest Jake and Hugo, I guess. Why dearest and then I guess?
I don't know.
That seems... You walked up to the water, and then you were about to jump in, and then you went home.
Yeah.
Anyway. How do you view story canon? Disney was able to completely wipe sort of canon Star Wars stories in one press release. Who/what gets the final authority on what stories are real? Whoever owns them.
I was gonna say that's not an exciting answer, but it is the answer.
Yeah.
There's a similar controversy going on about Star Trek Discovery, where some of the dumb, the kind of YouTube media I'm talking about, where they're kind of like the quartering. The quartering specifically doesn't talk about Star Trek, as far as I know. Although he might have, I don't know. I don't watch the quartering really that often, unless I'm critiquing it or being mad at it. But there are some people on YouTube.
Watch Brie Larson stuff.
Sure, there are some people on YouTube. This is kind of a Star Trek-y episode. I didn't mean it to be, but
I guess it is, huh?
Star Trek. There are some fans, let's call them, on YouTube who are like, "Is Star Trek Discovery even canon?" Yes. You know how I know that? CBS owns it, and they say it is.
Yeah.
You don't get to decide it. Like, at the end of the day, you can like or dislike Discovery. I happen to like Season 2 a lot, actually, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I'm excited for Star Trek Picard. But at no point do you get to decide something is or isn't canon if you don't own it. You can decide whether or not you enjoy it, but the things in it exist in that fictional universe because the owners say so. Now, it gets a little more complicated when you wind up with stuff like public domain characters. Sherlock Holmes, for instance, has been in the public domain for quite a while, and there are tons of different movies and TV shows and short stories. And in a case like that, it sort of comes down to personal opinion, but that's not the case currently, because the rules are, within our current system of copyrights and trademarks, whoever owns it decides what the canon is.
Right, like,
and you know what? For a lot of things, that works, because you want a consistent story.
You know, the thing I'm thinking of, though, is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And, she keeps taking stuff, and the first thing was Dumbledore's gay. Okay, whatever.
Sure,
is that real representation? No. But it is canon because she says it. And then it was like, they do the magic poo-poo away and they didn't have that before. And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's canon, though!
It's canon because she fucking wrote it. Like, it's her story and you don't get to say any different, and I'm sorry. Like, that's just how it works. Like if on his deathbed, right? Yeah. If on his deathbed, Stanley was like, Peter Parker's actually secretly gay. That's been the case. He's always been gay. Like, I mean,
okay,
it's stupid, but I mean, like,
I think Ditko did a lot of the Spider-Man thing.
I agree, but you know what I'm saying? Like, like it just, you don't get. I hate this. I hate this sort of. And Star Trek fanboys are the worst about it because they're like, the EU got deleted. Yes, it did. It was extended universe, and it doesn't matter.
Star Wars. You said Star Trek.
Did I say Star Trek? Yeah. Star Wars fanboys. Yeah, no, just like
surely
it's okay.
But the thing is, the EU is still out there, and you can still read it and enjoy it. It's fine.
Like, what's the difference if it's disconnected? You don't even have to buy into that. You can be like, this is my canon.
All it means is when it says it's not in canon, it means when they are writing new stories, they are not considering that. And I'm sorry if that sucks. I'm sure it can. But at the end of the day, it's just a movie series.
It's my life. Alexander Tigerstone. Dear King Papa Jake and Prince Hugo, what are your thoughts on parents who record them punishing their kids via destroying something that the kid has, i.e. their phones, for minor stuff, and then posting said recordings on social media to receive huge sums of thumbs up and comments saying that they are doing a good job at parenting, or, quote, that's how I raise my kids? I mean, I know my answer. What's yours?
I find that mostly disheartening because that child is being raised by a much larger, scarier child.
It's abuse. It's
I don't even know if I'd say it's abuse.
No, it is. It's emotional abuse for sure.
I understand if you want, for instance, to say to your child, like, hey, get your grades up, or I'm going to take away your Xbox or whatever. And even if you want us, I could even understand being like, I'm going to take away your whatever it happens to be.
What's the social media aspect?
And I'm going to like, donate it to someone. Like, you know what I mean? But the fact that you're, destroying property in front of your child, which I think is a bad lesson in waste and just childishness in the first place. It makes you look like an asshole. And secondly, the social media aspect of making it a spectacle and putting it on display for, like, however many people. Again, it strikes me as incredibly egotistic on the part of the parent, and not helpful to the child. It's not a constructive punishment. It's not a constructive learning experience as much as it is a lesson in how your dad or mom is a fucking weird asshole. You know what I mean?
Like
it's not proportional 9 times out of 10. So
I saw one. I mean, I've seen several of these. I've seen one where the punishment was getting their hair cut.
Oh, that's fucked.
That's fucked up. I've seen one. This one was a little bit.
I was thinking more like smash your Xbox type ones.
Right, but I mean, this one was a little bit better because the kid actually was like a bully, and the dad was like, okay, well, you're gonna walk to school because you got kicked off the bus. I'll drive alongside you. But then he filmed it and like ridiculed her the whole time, and I was like, that's the part where it goes too far. I'm absolutely fine with the other part. Like, you get kicked off the bus, it's not a super far walk, walking's healthy, and that kid gets, a little bit of a lesson in humility and stuff. That's fine. But once you put it on social media and berate the kid, that's when I don't like it. Again, breaking their shit in front of them isn't healthy. They're gonna do that same stuff. Like just physical aggression in general, I think is really unhealthy. I don't know. We're all probably guilty of overreacting in different situations, no matter what. But as a parent, you're doing that to a child that's learning the behavior, and I find that to be very different. And I don't like the social media aspect of this kind of shit. It really irritates me. And mostly when you say social media, it's Facebook. People on Twitter do not like that. To be fair, it's a bunch of us.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Nah. So that's it. You can always ask us more questions in the Discord in the description.
Absolutely.
You can follow us on Twitter at PapaBirdJake and at Hugo Reloaded for me.
Absolutely. You can subscribe to make sure that you get more of your questions asked. And you can also go to Patreon and support the show as little as $1 or as much as however much money you have. It allows it. And you get access to some early access stuff. If, like, say we get demonetized by YouTube, we put the demonetized thing up there for early access. We're moving towards some more digital stuff for patrons only. Then you'll only get that content as a patron and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's fun. It helps the show. It keeps the lights on, quite literally.
So that's it. Oh, you can send us stuff to the P.O. Box here.
Oh yeah, we have we got a dragon. We got a penisman. We got a penisman last time. Look at him. Actually, we got this too. Ugh. Can I show this? I'm just gonna show the top of it. You know what this is.
It's a corn dough. So until next time, I'm corn dough.
And well, now I'm gonna stop.
And that
became way too personal.
And
that's the way the corn dough crumbles. Don't grab it like that. There you go. Much better. That's weird.
I need some lube.
That was better. It was weird that you went up like an udder. Like is this a thing? Is this new? God damn it.
YouTube community guidelines, what is that?